So I rode nearly 4,000 miles in 11 days through rain and sunshine in Canada, and even 30 miles off-road to see if the Metzeler Cruisetec could handle everything a Harley touring bike throws at it. And I also did a fair amount of low-speed technical training with these tires. The Metzeler Cruisetec is a direct replacement for the OEM Dunlop, and the results really surprised me. Welcome back, Bikeaholics. Ryan Urlacher, lawabidingbiker.com. I always thank you, that's right, you, for checking back in. All right, so there's many different tires out there for a touring application, and of course, everybody's familiar with the Harley-Davidson stock OEM Dunlop. Now, I'll just tell you, it's a good tire. I rode it for many years on my personal bikes, and of course, on my police bike as a police motor officer and instructor. And many ask, well, if you think there's better tires out there, why didn't you run a different tire on your police bike? Well, you have to follow whatever department regulations are, and that is the tire that they wanted us to run, and so that's what I did. And like I say, there's nothing wrong with the stock OEM Dunlop, except for the fact that you have to rely on a dealership, not only to stock it, but to purchase from. I don't like having to rely on dealerships. And at this point, I do favor the Metzeler Cruisetec over the OEM Dunlop. And don't worry, I'll explain my reasoning as we dive in further in this video. So I think the first thing we should do here is look at what Metzeler actually says about this tire. They say the ultimate V-twin tire to perfect the performance of the motorcycles of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. In a segment where large and heavy motorcycles are being transformed into high-performance machines, Cruisetec features performance-oriented solutions and strong structural support features. A dual compound rear provides dynamic handling with outstanding lateral and forward grip while maintaining excellent mileage. Cruisetec tires are a more performance-oriented tire that complement other touring tires in the Metzeler lineup. Further, they say it has ideal balance between performance, versatility, and personality. Softer shoulder compounds on the dual compound rear tires enhance confidence when pushing the limits. Enhanced tread pattern and high silica compound promotes grip on wet surfaces. Extended grooves within the tread pattern improve water evacuation and control while leaning, and designed to match or slightly exceed the mileage of OE V-twin tires. Oh, and real quick, before you leave the channel, make sure you hit that subscribe button and bell icon. Every time those are hit, another biker joins the revolution. We'd love to have you be part of it. All right, so now I want to dive in and give you a complete overview about how I actually tested these tires. And I just want to say real quick, if you appreciate this video and all the videos we put out on the channel to help as many bikers as we can worldwide, you can support us by shopping in the Law Abiding Biker store for these tires and other tires. And I'll link to that in the description below. We are just a bootstrap company of bikers trying to help as many bikers as we can worldwide. We appreciate every customer. We'll definitely take care of you. We're not like the big corporate stores. We use and test many of the products in our store. Remember, savings to be had, no tax if you live outside Washington, and free shipping over $100. And like I said up front, really put these tires to the test, riding nearly 4,000 miles in 11 days through British Columbia, Alberta, and the Yukon territory, riding in temperatures ranging from over 100 degrees all the way down to 40 degrees. And unfortunately on our trip, we rode in 4 days of rain. Many times very heavy and sustained rain with standing water on the road, so much so that we had to slow down so we could actually see. But I will tell you, out of that, it made for really good wet weather riding on these tires. And just outside Hyder, Alaska, we actually rode 30 miles off-road on a gravel road so we could get all the way to see the beautiful Salmon Glacier. And riding to Salmon Glacier was part of our overall trip. And if you haven't yet seen the documentary film on that, make sure you do so. And I will link to that in the description below. I also spent a fair amount of time pushing these tires during low speed technical drills, just like I do on my police bike. I really wanted to see if these tires could handle it all. All right, now after all that, it's time to actually break down my findings. Before we do that, I just want to let you know that in the Law Abiding Biker store, of course, we carry Metzeler. We also have Michelin and Dunlop. We're also a Drag Specialties, Parts Unlimited, Western Power Sports dealer. So if there's a tire you want, you don't see it in the store, just hit us up on our store contact form and we can certainly see if we can get it headed your way. All right, so in the Law Abiding Biker shop, we also have the 2025 Indian Roadmaster, and of course the Metzeler Cruisetec would be an awesome option for this bike, or if you prefer Michelin or Dunlop, of course we have those for the Indians too. All right, let's first talk about cornering at speed. I like riding fast, aggressively. I like pushing it in the corners, and I wasn't sure how this tire would do in comparison to the OEM Dunlop, but I was very pleasantly surprised with its performance. So the Metzeler Cruisetec is known to be a stickier tire, and I really like that. Here's how it differs at speed in corners, in my words. When you go into a corner, it takes a little more input to get the tire over. It's not huge, I'm just saying it's slight. That's one of the things I noticed. So you get it over, you give the input, but once you give the input and you set into your corner, that tire holds really, really nice. With the OEM Dunlop, you'll notice a little bit, you can feel some movement, or you have to redirect a little bit of input, especially if you're pushing really, really hard. That's one thing I noticed. It's not a deal breaker, of course. With the Metzeler Cruisetec, you can basically set it and forget it. It holds true, it holds smooth, and you don't feel those little variations as you're going through the corner. So I was really impressed with that tire. All right, so let me remind you, 4 days of riding in sustained rain, heavy rain, standing water. We had to slow down for visibility purposes. Now, one of the things I always test on tires, and I have tested other tires, is how they perform in wet weather. Of course, we ride in wet weather, not only on my personal bike, but police bikes, and we also train in wet weather. In fact, I had previously done an OEM Dunlop review video, and that tire handles really good in wet weather, but I will tell you, now that I've rode the Metzeler Cruisetec, it definitely handles it even better. And so let me set this up a little bit. I don't ride in rain mode on my bike. I'm very comfortable handling the bike myself. And when we were riding in the rain, I was in sport mode. Now, with sport mode, of course, you still have some safety features, you still have some traction control, but have no doubt in sport mode, you can break the rear tire free momentarily, and then the bike should help catch that so that you stop spinning it. So the reason I tell you that is when we were riding in the rain, I actually, when I was in a lean, coming out of a corner, I would try to gas it within reason and being safe to see if I could get that back end to walk on me. I can definitely do that with the Dunlop. With this tire, and remember, it's a stickier tire, it just held. And I couldn't believe it multiple times when I was trying that it was able to hold. Of course, if I floored it, at some point I could have got it to break loose, but I was just kind of doing routine tire and giving it some extra gas. It's a sticky tire, and it handled the rain like a champ. Also, not only is it a stickier tire, but you can see their tread patterns here on the Metzeler Cruisetec, and you can see all these channels here, and those channels go all the way out to the side of the tire. And of course, all of that helps get rid of that water, that standing water on the road. So all in all, this is a really good tire. In fact, at this point, till I test others, my favorite tire in the rain. Next, we got to talk about off-road. And no, not everybody rides off-road, and it's not a common test of a street touring tire, but we do ride off-road, and we did 30 miles of gravel, an old mining road, to get up to this glacier. I'll say all in all, I've ridden police bikes off-road a lot. This handled neck to neck with the stock OEM Dunlop. And yes, I did test it, a lot of potholes, a lot of rocks. Of course, I was gassing it, actually took traction control off for a while and was really sliding it around. But even on loose gravel, it held really well. Of course, I could get it to break loose and spin and walk the back end and all that. But before it started spinning, it held really good. So thumbs up for that. All right, so of course, I went out. We definitely set up cone patterns, police drills, low speed technical training. And I spent quite a bit of time training with these tires. And I already told you that, on my police bike, they made us use the OEM Dunlops. They're a good tire. They hold well, of course, in the training patterns, but these held just as well. One of the things I was also surprised with, sometimes when training, it was warm and there was tar snakes. And if you've ever trained on tar snakes, it can be a little bit uneasy. When it gets warmer, they get really squishy. And so you'll be in a full bar lock lean turn and you'll hit that tar snake and you'll feel the bike walk. I will say that for whatever reason, it doesn't make sense to me quite, but these tires, you still felt the front end walk a little bit till you got back on the pavement, but it was much less than the OEM Dunlops. I was actually pleasantly surprised. I don't know if that's because they're stickier or because of the tread pattern, but it's just something I noted as I was doing those drills. All right, so the Metzeler Cruisetec is a stickier tire. So a lot of you are asking, well, if it's that sticky, does it break down quick? What's the mileage like on it? I will tell you, we know guys that have ran them for some time, and they report that they're getting about the same mileage, maybe just a little bit less than the stock OEM Dunlop. And even if they did get a little less miles, it doesn't matter to me. Obviously, tires are your lifeline on a motorcycle, so less miles is okay for me as long as they're sticky and they're a really good performing tire. This isn't a review video on the Michelin Commander 3s. I ran the Commander 2s before. Those of you that know that tire, we do sell in the Law Abiding Biker store. It's a harder compound. You're probably going to get more miles, but it is not a sticky tire and it is not a performance tire. So you really need to choose carefully, you know, on how you ride and what sort of tire you want. But I always say mileage, forget about that. I want the best tire. And just to reiterate, in case I confuse anybody there, the Metzeler Cruisetec gets just about the same miles as the stock OEM Dunlop. All right, and I know a lot of you out there have been running the Metzeler Cruisetec for some time. So this is a community here, and I'm always curious to see what you think about things, so leave your comments below. All right, so we should definitely talk about pricing, and we're happy to say that the Metzeler Cruisetec is right in line with the stock OEM Dunlop. Of course, prices can fluctuate. Let me tell you how you can save some money here. You can just check out the Law Abiding Biker YouTube channel, find our front wheel and rear wheel removal videos. You can do this yourself, trust me. And then you can just take your wheels down to a third-party shop or a dealership, because any of them that have that machine, it's really easy to remove the tires and balance them. Then you can bring them home and throw them on your bike. That will save you a ton of money. And I'll link to both those videos in the description below for you. All right, so for my final thoughts, I'll just tell you, I love the Metzeler Cruisetec, and I highly recommend it. It is a sticky tire, it is a performance tire, and I'm still amazed at how it feels. Not only on low speed technical training, of course, I loved it there, it held well, the tar snakes I told you about, but at speed in those corners, just to reiterate, just a little bit more input to get it over, but once it's there, it holds really, really nice. I basically say you set it and forget it from that point. And of course, it shined in those 4 days of sustained rain, and I felt very confident with those tires on this bike riding in that rain. All right, so don't skimp on your tires, and most importantly, get out there and ride every chance you get, bikeaholics. Peace.
I was a boy with a plan that turned me into a man, and man, I keep winning and winning again. Whoops, I did it again. On business is right where I stand. Never been slipping on sand, and man, I keep winning and winning again. Whoops, I did it again. I was a boy with a plan.